After a long flight and a long trip by 2 buses and a taxi, we finally arrived at the place where our cruise was going to start. This town is called San Antonio, Chile. We stayed at a wonderful hotel with a beautiful view of the bay that borders the ocean. We decided to take a walk along the local promenade and see the surroundings, which were very beautiful. We stopped at various places, saw the fair which was taking place that weekend, watched other sights. This is a big port with many big ships and cruise liners. There one could see different sea animals like seals, sea lions, and others coming close to the shore. We walked along the promenade and returned to the hotel, which is in the background. We were also able to see a wonderful rainbow, which covered the ocean with a full ring. Our first stop was Puerto Montt. First excursion took us to enjoy Puerto Varas, the city of roses, a wonderful little town on the shores of the lake with a famous volcano which is a local attraction. Beautiful promenade that is buried in flowers. We really liked this place. Our next stop was the city of Frutillar, which means the place where strawberries grow. This settlement was organized by the Germans in the middle of the 19th century. There is still a museum with a garden and a house where you can study the life of Germans who settled there. There are a lot of beautiful flowers planted by the first settlers. We visited Plaza de Armas, a square that is located on the shore of the lake. This is a Chilean resort. People spend vacation here near the sea. The next port on our cruise was Puerto Chacabuco. It is also in the south of Chile, where the famous Andes and Chilean fjords begin. This is a very small town where very few people live. People are invited to live there and even are paid for it. We visited the national park on the Simpson River. This is a special reserve where you can observe the local nature and exotic plants of the mountains. We visited the city of Aspen with its famous bridge over the Simpson River. On the way back to the ship, we saw the famous waterfalls and peaks covered with snow. The weather was quite cold for the fact that in Chile it was summertime. Our next stop was Punta Arenas, Chile. We climbed to the highest point in the town to enjoy a breathtaking view of the city. First, we visited the local Natural History Museum. It was very interesting to see the exhibits of birds and other animals that were collected there, and to learn that despite the cold climate, ostriches lived there too. We also got acquainted with the life and culture of local Indians. Most importantly, we learned a little more about Ferdinand Magellan, who traveled in this part of the world and who opened the waterway between the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans, which was named after him, the Strait of Magellan. It was actually the main artery traveling from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific before the construction of the Panama Canal. After that, we visited the famous ship called Victoria. This is an exact copy of the ship now Victoria, one of the ships of Ferdinand Magellan's expedition in 1520. We were able to board this ship and to see all the details of the cabins and their equipment. It was so difficult for us to imagine that Magellan and other explorers could travel for so long under such harsh conditions. Standing at the helm of this ship, Slava imagined himself a navigator discovering new lands. Next to this ship, there was another famous ship called Beagle. On board this ship, Charles Darwin for 5 years was traveling around the world to find confirmation of his theory of evolution. On the map, we could see a part of this journey. Near this ship, there is a famous platform with a wonderful view of the Strait of Magellan. Standing there, we experienced deep excitement. We dreamed about visiting this place for a long time, and finally, our dream came true, and we were very, very happy about it. On the central square of the city, there is a monument to Magellan, and in the same area, the yellow-blue flag of the Antarctica Chilean region of Chile. Very early morning on the 8th day of our journey, our cruise ship entered the zone of the Chilean fjords and began its way along the Beagle Channel, where we saw many glaciers. Each of those glaciers is named after the country of Europe. There is a glacier called France, Spain, Italy, Holland, Germany, and so on. It was very special to look at those huge areas covered with ice for many millions of years. We saw how the glaciers melted, gradually decreasing. Interesting fact, out of all the glaciers we saw, there is only one that does not melt but increases in size. This is a very interesting natural phenomenon. Traveling here along the Beagle Channel among the Chilean fjords in 1838, Charles Darwin saw the glaciers for the first time, and he was really impressed. He wrote in his diary, "One can hardly imagine something more beautiful than the blue glaciers, especially against the white snow on the peaks." This is the famous glacier where large tracts of ice directly descend and touch the water of the channel. Finally, at noon, we docked in the most southern city of South America, which belongs to Argentina. It is called Ushuaia, which means deep bay. The motto of the city is, "The end of the world, the beginning of everything." It is the capital of the archipelago Tierra del Fuego. Our tour took us to the Tierra del Fuego National Park. When Magellan's ship was approaching this island for the first time, it was late evening. He saw a lot of lights. It seemed that the island was on fire. So he named this island Tierra del Fuego, the land of fire, although in fact it was a bonfire of the Yaman Indians. In this national park, there is a small post office which can stamp your postcard with a special stamp, "The End of the World." But unfortunately we could not do this because there were too many people, too many tourists. We hope you will believe us that we really were there. Instead of that, we took a picture of the map of this reserve on the southernmost point of the South American continent, very close to Antarctica. Lake Asigami, Errázuriz or Roca, is a binational body of water located in the south of the Isla Grande of Tierra del Fuego archipelago, divided between the republics of Argentina and Chile. The lake's aboriginal name is Asigami, which in the Yagan language means basket or long bag. It's a very beautiful, picturesque lake. The local information center tells the visitors about the animal and plant world of this area and about the life of Yagana Indians. Indians lived on this territory before the arrival of Magellan. They walked completely naked. The whole family spent most of their lives in canoes, so they had wide shoulders and weak legs. Right in the canoe, they made fires to cook their own food. The second part of our tour was on board the catamaran to see little islands that are inhabited by cormorants, a penguin-like bird, as well as sea lions and other inhabitants of this cold land. We could also see the most southern lighthouse on Earth. We were very impressed by what we saw during this excursion.
Это колония корморанов и не котиков, а морских львов. Sea Lions and Cormorants. И знаменитый маяк в Ушуае. Мы находимся на краю света. Специально называется End of the World. Зрелище потрясающее. И вот Славочка.
Сбылась мечта. Побывали в Антарктике. Увидели Sea Lions, корморанов, о которых ничего не знали, альбатросов. Все в одном месте, замечательно, несчастно.
Usually in the summertime in these places it rains constantly, and we thought it would be raining all day long, but we were lucky with the weather. It was a rare sunny day of a very short summer in Ushuaia. On the 9th day of our cruise, we approached the Cape Horn, which is the southernmost tip of the South American continent. But unfortunately the weather was extremely stormy, and we could not get closer to this cape than 7 kilometers. We entered the waters of the Atlantic Ocean. The first stop in the Atlantic was Port Stanley, the capital of the Falkland Islands. There were a few hours before our tour, and we decided to see the main attractions of Stanley. One of the attractions of this city is an arch built from the jaws of two blue whales. It marks the centennial of the English crown ruling over the Falklands. The arch is located near the famous cathedral, which we also visited. There is the only post office in town where you could buy the Falkland stamps and look at the Falkland pound. Its value exactly equals to the British pound. For several centuries after the discovery of these islands, they were passing from one country to another. At different times, it belonged to Spain, France, Great Britain, Argentina. Now they are the overseas territory of Great Britain. In 1982, Argentinian troops unexpectedly landed on these islands and declared them their territory under the name of the Malvinas Islands. As a result of a short war, these islands again became the territory of Great Britain with their own flag. In 2013, the referendum was held and 99% of the population voted for their desire to remain British citizens. After visiting the southernmost Christian cathedral in the world, we started our guided tour to the main goal of our trip, Laguna Bluff, where we met a big colony of penguins. On the way to this place, we saw a unique natural phenomenon, stone rivers or kurus, and interesting breeds of animals, for example cows of unusual shapes and colors. Lagoon Bluff Farm belongs to one family, Kilmartin. It is a natural reserve where king penguins, gento penguins, and Magellanic penguins live. We traveled there by special all-terrain jeeps, so there are no roads. The winds are unusually strong in the area, so it's hard to hear the video where Slava is talking about what he saw on this ranch. The king penguins made an especially strong impression on us. They were unusually beautiful and graceful at the same time. They bring their cheeks out. You can see little gray baby penguins who turn into young penguins and follow their parents, completely depend on them. If parents die, children also die, and it's just impossible to help them. It's sad, but nobody can influence nature. Gento penguins are smaller in size, but they are active and eager to communicate with visitors. We also managed to communicate with them. It was an unusual sight. We remember this for life. After we said goodbye to our new friends, we went to a small cafe where we were treated to homemade sweets and drinks with an unusual interior. Even the toilet in this cafe was worthy of our attention. On the way back, we saw another attraction, a collection of different types of shoes and boots left by tourists and visitors to this lagoon. In 1865, on the area which is now called Puerto Madryn, the immigrants from Wales landed and founded their colony. Even the flag of this territory resembles the Welsh flag, but of a different color. They started farming in the colony and made this area suitable for living. On the local steppes called pampas, there are many very beautiful guanaco, animals from camel family. We were very surprised to see a dinosaur in these steppes, but it turned out to be fake. We were going to Punta Tombo, where the colony of Magellanic penguins was located. On the way, we met the living guanacos who peacefully grazed in pampas, paying no attention to us. After a long journey, we arrived in Punta Tombo. Penguins nest in small burrows. Each pair returns to its nest every season. It happens that the burrows are busy and the males fight among themselves for these burrows. The nest cannot be transferred. The female can go to another male because she is attached to her nest. The last stop of our cruise was in Uruguay. Our ship docked in Montevideo, the capital. Washed by the warm waters of the Atlantic Ocean and the Gulf Stream, Uruguay met us with warm and sunny weather. it was a huge contrast to the Antarctic south of South America. We stopped near the monument to immigrants called Stagecoach, which depicts a cart of first settlers who are stuck in a swamp. And this is our local guide. This fountain in the center of the city is a monument dedicated to the Independence Day of Uruguay, which it received in the fight against Spain, Brazil, and Argentina on the 25th of August, 1825. The central square of Montevideo. Government House of Uruguay. In the interior of this building, there are 13 types of marble. The national stadium of the Soccer Club Nacional. Uruguay hosted the first World Soccer Championship. As evidenced by this inscription, the first world champion was the national team of Uruguay. This is famous promenade La Ramba. Goodbye, hospitable Uruguay. We are back on our cruise ship Norwegian Sun, which became our home for these 14 days. We didn't want to part with it. But Buenos Aires and new adventures awaited us ahead.